Hi, everyone. I'd like to introduce our guest for today. Hello, guest. Guest, would you like to introduce yourself? Who are you and what are you all about?
Good morning, everyone. My name's Louis Savvy, and I am at the International Festival of Science Fiction and Fantastic Film, or Sci-Fi London, as we like to be known. Hopefully this is coming out the right way and not backwards. Yeah, that's me, and sitting here in COVID isolation in East London.
Nice. All right. Can you tell us a little bit about what film festivals are all about to somebody who doesn't know anything about film festivals?
Okay, so you don't need to wear a tie. You don't need to dress up. You don't need to do anything special. Film festival, at its basic, is just a collection of films. It's curated by a team normally, and it's a way of exposing your film to an audience who may have bought a ticket, who may have bought a pass to come to the run of the festival. Film festivals, I think, exist to be able to highlight new material, to certainly do retrospectives and classics and so on, but for the most part, they're to expose new talent to the world, and are normally run by people who have a real interest in a broad range of genres, broad styles, and so on in cinema. For us, obviously, we're a science fiction film festival, so we have a niche. You know, we're a genre festival. Personally, I watch everything. You know, I watch all sorts of stuff. I mean, one of my favourite films, I think, of all time still is Path to Glory by Kubrick. You know, which doesn't have any sci-fi in it at all, sadly. But yeah, I think festivals are a really good exposure. Good to go and see new material because, well, I say that this was true probably 5 years ago. In the last 5 years, the market has, you know, film has drastically changed now with the access to streaming platforms. There are so many. Video is so easy to move around the internet now that actually you've got the chance to see some amazing stuff. That some of it doesn't even get to festivals these days. Certainly in science fiction, that's happening a lot now for someone who runs a festival. We were after the Chinese movie The Wandering Earth, which was made a couple of years ago, 18 months ago. And everybody in the world was excited to see this sort of blockbuster science fiction movie from China, you know, that was kind of on a par with, you know, the biggest Hollywood films in terms of production values. It did really well in China, and Netflix bought it, so it went straight to their platform, and that happens with a lot of new productions now. So I think festivals, certainly in the last few years, have started to change in terms of audience numbers and how they present the material, all of the extra things they need to do to keep it festive, if you like, to keep it fun and interesting. But also we're struggling now with the onliners to get content. So
let's talk a little bit about your beginnings. So how did you come up with this idea for the film festival? Why did you decide to do it?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. The first one is I'm a huge science fiction fan. I've been watching and reading science fiction for years. In fact, I read far less science fiction these days, and I've got 3 kids, and you know, so if I'm not dealing with them, then I've got films to watch for the festival. But I was a prolific sci-fi reader. You know, I grew up with all the sort of classics on TV, you know, Lost in Space and Doctor Who, and you know, what's the one with the kids in? Come on, you can, Anton. My son is in here actually at the moment. What's the one with the kids in with the hand that opens up? The Tomorrow People. Tomorrow People. That's it. The Tomorrow People. I used to love the Tomorrow People. I also am a big fan of audio. I love radio drama. And listen to an awful lot of sci-fi radio drama, and so I'm a fan. I'm a you know, deep ingrained fan. Although I was the wrong age to get sort of super turned on by Star Wars when it came out. I was nearly 15, 16 years old, something like that. But the sort of stuff I wanted to see was never really at the cinema, and still isn't really at the cinema. You know, I can see it on a screen at home, but I can't see it, you know, as the filmmaker intended in a huge arena, you know, with great sound. We were at dinner one night with friends, and somebody at the table said, we were talking about movies, and they said, I don't like science fiction. How can you not like science fiction? That's like saying you don't like jazz. You know, you don't have to like Dixie or trad or, you know, but you can't ignore the influence. And there are some amazing, you know, some amazing music out there. In the same way, in science fiction, you don't have to like the Star Trek. But if you've never seen, you know, Chris Marker's La Jetée, or you've never seen Stalker by Tarkovsky or Fahrenheit 451, you know, how can you not like science fiction? You just haven't seen the right films. Anyway, to cut a very long story shorter, so this friend at the time said she didn't like science fiction. I thought she was hot. And thought, I wonder if, and she was single, and I thought, oh well, maybe I can take her to see a couple of movies. You know, there
Or I'll
must be
create
something on.
a film festival for her.
Well, actually, it was. I was looking to go to the movies to go and see something good. You know, I wanted to like to go and see, I don't know, Solaris, or, you know, or 2001 rerun somewhere. You know, and I couldn't really find anything at the cinema. Even the BFI at the time weren't really playing that kind of stuff. So I thought, well, there'd be a festival, there'd be a film festival around that shows this stuff. And I started looking, and I couldn't find one. I couldn't find anything in the UK, and certainly in London, that was showing that kind of genre stuff. So I thought, you know, I'm going to start a film festival. And I want you to come, and she did PR and marketing. I said, I want you to come and work on it. I want you to come and PR it and help me get the word out. It's a serious look at science fiction, you know, to show the worth of the genre, and also to get people, you know, come out of the closet, as it were. You know, there are films out there that you will love, but you probably ignored them because if you were looking at a listing, you saw that it said science fiction classic, science fiction this, you know, set in another world, and you just ignored it. So she said yes to that, and it's now 19. We've done 19 annual editions for the festival. This should have been our 20th year and we got 3 kids. So the end of the geeky story is that I got the girl. She still doesn't like science fiction. The first probably 5 years of the festival, we had a policy of avoiding all of the trope cliche stuff. So we had no spaceship images, no starry backgrounds, no, you know, robots and alien creatures and all that kind of stuff in any of our literature, our marketing materials, and so on. And very much I tried to program against type. And in fact, I mean, because it was my festival, obviously I showed my favorite, one of my all-time favorite films, Chris Marker, 1962, 29 minutes of black and white stills with a voiceover, which was adapted by I can't remember the couple's name now, David and somebody. Anyway, but they turned it into 12 Monkeys. It's basically it's the story of 12 Monkeys, which is a classic time travel, but it's a love story at its heart. It's a beautiful love story. It's a fantastic film. So that was the very first thing I put on, and then the very first indie feature I put on was, I think, a film that just deserves to be seen by everybody. It's a bit of a Marmite film, and for those of you around the world who don't know what Marmite is, or Vegemite, it's a very sour, and it's very bitter and very salty, and you either love it or you hate it. So that's, in England we say things are Marmite. because you will either love them or you hate them. There is no middle ground. Anyway, it's a film called The American Astronaut by an American director called Corey Maccabee.
You had this passion and you wanted to make this film festival. Can you quickly run us through kind of the steps that you did, you know, from kind of creating it, you know, finding the venues, the sponsorship? How did that happen? How did you put the film festival together?
In the words of Chris Morris from a show called The IT Crowd, when I started this film festival, all I had was a dream and £6 million. It's not true. I was very lucky actually in the first year. You know, I had this daft idea to start. You know, you just need to find some films, somewhere to show them, and that's it. I mean, you can start a film festival online in your front room, whatever else. You just call it a film festival, because all you're really doing is showing films to people, right? But actually, for us, the work really started in the second year. I'll tell you why. So, I have a friend of mine called Tony Watts, who helped set up things like the Sundance Channel. He worked for Murdoch, sadly, for a long time, setting up star movies around the world. He helped bring the film channels to New Zealand. He set up one of the very first cable companies in the UK. He helped set up Sky at the beginning. So he's a real TV guy and an exec producer on a lot of films. You know, he's like, he's an encyclopedic knowledge of movie. He probably film. That's what it feels like anyway. Anyway, really lovely guy. I've known him since I was a kid. And I thought, I'd pull some favours. Let's see what happens. You know, so I rang him after we decided that we were actually going to do this film festival, and said, I'm going to start a film festival. And he said, great, you'll need a big film. And I said, okay. And he said, and it'll be really nice if you can get a name there, you know, because the media are lazy and they'll write about things they know. They won't have much interest in stuff they've never heard of, you know, because they're lazy. So not that that's true, media. Anyway, so he got me, I said, fine, okay. He went off and did his stuff and made some calls while we got planning. I had no experience of running a film festival, but I'm full of bullshit. So I thought, well, I'll just share. So I started somewhat I would like to show, and some of the classics that hadn't been at the cinema, and some of the things that I thought were great, and without looking at any new material really at all. I did, you know, it wasn't sort of foremost in my mind. And I started thinking, right, we need some money. So I started looking around for sponsors, and I started writing to, you know, people who I thought might sponsor a science fiction film festival. And I managed to, and I found a forum for the Sci-Fi Channel, because I couldn't get through. There was no numbers, anything. I couldn't, you know, but I found this online forum where they were chatting to fans. And I just posted in a thing, we're starting a film festival, I don't know if you're interested. And then I got an email from someone saying, our communications team think this is a great idea, they'd like to see you. So I went, downloaded a sci-fi looking font, give a name, and at that point I couldn't get hold of my PR, and I just, oh sugar, we're going to show sci-fi films, we're in London, Sci-Fi London, that'll do. And then I wrote 3 or 4 pages of, we want to do a serious look. It's for people who don't think they like science fiction. We're going to make sure that we put across all of the different, you know, the broad church of science fiction, all the, you know, subgenres, blah, 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 blah. This is what we want to do. We're going to do it in central London. It will run for a weekend. And then I went to the meeting to go and see these guys. You know, it was like within a day or so. I just panicked and wrote some stuff down. And I walked in there with my PR, and we had a really good meeting with them. They loved the idea. They were trying to push themselves as a serious platform for science fiction as well. And we walked out of there with £1 million worth of on-air support. You know, they made a TV commercial. They were going to play. They said, we'll throw a big party. We'll invite stars. We'll do all this. You know, I thought. And we walked out of their office. And we walked down the road. We walked round the corner, sure that we couldn't be seen by anyone in their window, and it just stood there going, yeah, doing a mad dance in the street. Couldn't believe that, this was like in 2 weeks, from I'm going to start a film festival to walking out of there with a sponsor and all this support,
And that was just the first year, but
that was year one.
Yeah.
Right? And then so I rang my friend Tony and said, look, Sci-Fi Channel are on board. And he said, oh, great, I was just going to ring you. He said, I've got you Ken Russell and the world premiere of The Fall of the House of Usher, which is his first mini DV film. So I had, within a couple of weeks, I had all of that, So then the work started. It's actually trying to figure out what we were going to do, where we were going to do it and all that. I had a meeting with a few cinemas, and I walked into the Curzon Soho on Shaftesbury Avenue, London's most prestigious art house. The UK's most prestigious art house cinema at the time. And I asked to speak to the manager. I got shown to a guy called Joe Bateman, who ran all of their hires and so on, who happened to be an insane science fiction fan. And he just went, oh my God, yes, we have to do this. So within about 3-4 weeks, I had, money. I had, a leading international director and the world premiere of his film, the most amazing venue in central London. So it was great. So anyway, I managed to find some original films, and I then spent some time with Tony, getting some mentoring from him on, fine, this is how you look for films. We're going to do a call for entry. We're going to do it, so he helped me in the beginning to do, from his experience. He helped set up, I think he worked on Toronto Festival from the second year for quite a long time, and he set up film festivals as well as TV and so on. So I was completely green and really lucky.
Do you have to do this every year? Do you have to look for new venues, new sponsor, like more sponsorship money every single year?
So, well, what happened was so we did it. We had a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Hadn't happened in London for a while. For instance, the Scala. I used to go to a cinema called the Scala in King's Cross. For any of you old enough to remember when it was a cinema, and it was you could smoke in cinemas at that time as well. And so this sort of funk from the building was incredible, because you could go there and watch films all night. So we'd go to all-nighters and we'd sit there and just get, a little off our faces watching some very surreal, very crazy films. It was an amazing place. Anyway, no one had been doing all-nighters for about 10 years, probably at least 10 years in London. So one of the things on my list was I want to do an all-nighter, and the Curzon Soho agreed, and we decided to do Aliens, all 4 of the Alien movies back to back. We did an anime all-nighter as well, with things like Ghost in the Shell and Akira, and the place was completely sold out. I mean, it was great. It was fabulous. And even Anthony Daniels came. C3PO, for those of you who don't know who he is, along with various other people. We had Ken Russell, and his world premiere. It was fabulous. Then, so it was all done. Everyone was happy. Everyone was great. Let's do this again. We've put the dates basically in the calendar. I went back to see the Sci-Fi Channel about doing year 2, and they had said, we've got bad news. We've just been bought by another company, and we're all being made redundant. They're bringing their own team in, and that was it. Curzon Soho weren't sure whether they wanted to do festivals anymore. Not because of us. They were just trying to readjust. So within 2 months of running a great event and having a really good time with all of this stuff, then we were back to effectively ground zero. We had nothing at all. So that's when I was lucky. I'd at least done an event where the work started. Fine, okay, let's plan now what we actually really want to do and how we're going to do it. And so it was knocking on doors, going and seeing all the venues, widening our sponsorship thing. Then by then at least I knew that we could go and see distributors and sales agents and all of these things that I knew the words, but I didn't have any experience of dealing with any of these people really, or how you approach them, what you ask for. And actually, I think in the first year, because I was so naive with it, I got away with a lot. And then we bullied. I mean, actually, we bullied one of the companies as well. There's a film called Avalon, Mamoru Oshii, who did Akira. It was his first live action film at the time. It's a sort of Japanese-Hungarian co-production, I think. Great. Everyone was on board except for the sales agent, was a company called Wild Bunch. And I will shame you on screen. You're bloody awful to deal with. They're still going. They pick up great films. They're just a real pain when you're running a small film festival. Anyway, they kept umming and ahhing and saying, yeah, maybe, we're not sure of our plans. So again, in my naivety, I just thought, oh, sod it. I'm just going to say I'm showing it. I'm going to put it in the program. So I wrote the synopsis. I found some pictures. I printed the book. I had the whole thing, 25,000 copies of our program being distributed, and I put one in an envelope and I biked it round to their office in Soho. And I said, you better give me the film because it's in the book.
So you get the films.
We had to start again.
You get the films that you want for the festival. You get the money that you want. By the way, the sponsorship, are they always companies or can they be individuals like patrons? Do people actually come in and say, we love sci-fi, here's £10,000 to run your film festival?
Please. We've never had that happen. But if there's anybody out there watching, then, and you're a big fan and you want to support a film festival, the more money we have, the more we can do, basically. The more things we can do, the wider our advertising can be, the more the mission to convert people into sci-fi. What happens is that I mean, like all film festivals, you need money. You have to spend money. Now, at the sort of the higher level, those, they are supported by arts money and development money and so on from the state a lot of the time. So the BFI through the lottery network and all the money that's raised and that, they get arts funding. I can't remember what they receive every year, but it's a couple of £1 million.
And where does this money go? How does a film festival spend money? Why do they need money?
So it's most basic. You will have to. There's a venue cost. You can't, unless you've got your own cinema, then you need to hire a cinema, and that can be any kind of deal. That can be that you work with the cinema as a partner and they split the box office, the ticket receipts with you. So for every bum on a seat for $10, some of that goes to you, some of that goes to the venue. Nobody comes to your festival, but you still use their rooms. You're paying because they've taken off something that they could have sold 50 or 100 tickets for, whatever. Or you dry hire, you just rent the space. So there's a cost involved in that. You've then got things like, if you want your staff in uniform, you want t-shirts, you've got to pay for those. You need to print your catalogue. You need to advertise. You need to market, because people aren't going to come unless they know about it. And there's certainly, 20 years ago, there wasn't social media in the way there is today. So we did a lot of paper. We printed postcards and booklets and posters, and then if you want to get those out, you have to pay for the distribution of your posters and your postcards and all that sort of stuff. Money is spent on promotion. Your money is spent sometimes on getting the films. There are some films that you might want where there is a fee that you have to pay. Some sales agents will certainly try and sell you the film for your festival. Other sales agents see festivals as a promotional tool, so they give you the film because they want to be in it. Then if you want a guest, if you want to bring the director or talent from that movie to your festival, there's accommodation, transport. If you want to throw parties, you know, people tend not to pay when they're at your party. You know, they get the booze and they get some canopies or food or whatever, you know, free. So that's a cost. Transport. I remember the first Sci-Fi London that we did, I spent £9,000 just on shipping. That because everything was film prints. So I wanted to bring 4 films in from Japan, you know, 6 big canisters of film, and it's heavy, you know, and I've got to fly into the UK, then I show it, and then I've got to fly it back to Japan again, you know. So we spent about £9,000 just on shipping, and we were a small festival, so that's a small budget, although it's a lot of money. Whereas in the last 3 years or 4 years of the festival, I think my shipping budget was about £90, because we're just moving USB sticks and the odd hard drive backwards and forwards. But a lot of the stuff we do now, people just stick it onto a WeTransfer or a similar kind of platform, and we just download them, you know, because we got, you know, great fast fiber connections. We download it, it sits on a computer, it gets transferred to a server. So you need a lot of money for, you know, like I said, you could, if you wanted to start a film festival tomorrow, then there's no reason why you can't start a film festival, because you could, you know, we've run Sci-Fi London in sand dunes in a desert in India, and we had a data projector, we had a pull-up screen, we had a really small little sort of household Dolby surround sound 6.1 speaker system and a Blu-ray player and a generator, and you could only get there by camel, and you had to, you know, you came across the sand dunes, and then in this one sand dune we put a whole load of mattresses and cushions and stuff on the desert floor, and that was a little mini film festival. We ran about 15 films over a couple of days, you know, over 4 days, doing, you know, 3 or 4 films a night, and that was Sci-Fi London in India.
About Sci-Fi London in London. So tell me about the film festival. What's the program like? Where does it take place? How many films do you show? What are the dates? Tell us a bit about the 48-hour film competition, which of course I was part of last year.
Yeah.
And apparently you mentioned some dog dressing fiasco. I mean, just tell us about the film festival.
Okay. So Sci-Fi London is a film festival, and as I said, it's got the word fun, and we do try and make it something that people want to be at. And we've been, I think, quite successful at that, and because the feedback we get from most people is they have a really good time. You know, even if they hate the movie, because the thing I can't control is whether you like the movie or not, right? You know, we pick the movies, we put them in the cinema, you go in and sit in there and go, why did you show this? It's dreadful. You know, I couldn't hear anybody properly, or the color was wrong, or, you know, so you can have the technical thing, or it didn't make any sense, you know, or I hated it. Why, you know, film is so subjective. You can't please all the people all the time. So, but what I can do is make sure that when you come in, and the people that you interact with, and what happens in the bar and the breakout sessions and all that sort of stuff, are as fun or interesting as possible, and that you feel welcome and safe, and so on. You know, it's diverse, friendly festival in the world, because we don't give a hoot, you know, what your heritage is, you know, who you sleep with, what you do with your bits, you know. Come and see a film with us, come and see a cool film which explores some boundaries, that asks some questions, that plays with scenarios, that looks to the future, that, you know, think that it's, you know, historically, you know, damning to somebody but hidden in a future. I mean, there's so, you know, science fiction is just the best genre to say anything, you know, good, bad or indifferent, because you can hide it, right? You know, you can hide it in the story as an allegory or a metaphor or whatever, and you just hope people get it, right? So, but I can't tell, I can't control whether you like the film or not, but I can give you the right environment to come and feel safe, be who you are, and then talk to people who also hated that film. We're very opinionated sci-fi people. And certainly for people who don't like science fiction, or think they don't, the mission is always, again, been about, well, just come and see it. Come and see it. What's it going to, 90 minutes of your life, come and see it and see what you think. And for the most part, I enjoy it when people turn around and say, oh, I didn't think really I liked it, but that film was great. And it's, can you imagine if that happened? Or actually, that's amazing. That's just like what we're doing now, right? Yes, it is. That's why sci-fi is so powerful. Come again. So we do a lot of, I'm sounding a bit too righteous here, but we do a lot of fun stuff at the festival. We have a quiz and we do those things. We also, but we are a film festival and we're not a convention. We don't have actors signing photographs and charging. We don't encourage, actors to come a lot to the festival. It's great to have them. And I don't want to sound, like Hitchcock said that, all actors are cattle, or meat puppets, but we're all about story. I know it's terrible, isn't it? I'm awful. And I'm a producer as well, so I don't believe any of that. I think actors are intrinsic to a film in the same way as the makeup artist and the runners are. It's totally collaborative. So without any one of those roles in there, you don't get a good film. So
the film festival is for film audiences. It's for people who want to watch films, people who want to learn about sci-fi, people who want to network with other people who love the things they love.
Yeah, yeah. And also come along just to take a chance as well. The thing is, if you always go and do the same things that you do all the time, then you're missing out. I didn't think I liked the opera, really, until the first time I went to a proper, I love all sorts of stuff.
The 48-hour film competition is perfect because it gets you to try that and to take a chance. Can you tell us about that?
No, not yet. I'll tell you first. So the other thing, because I do enjoy cosplay. I don't cosplay. There aren't many fat people that you can cosplay, really. Most costumes come in slim. However, what we didn't want to do is kind of fight against, Comic Cons around the world and try and get these great. But I'd still like to have some of that at my festival because I quite like the fun of it. So a friend of mine is a dog photographer, and we were chatting one day, and he said, "Well, why don't you just do one for pets? Let's get dogs dressed up." So we started a thing called Sci-Fi London, which is exactly as it's cosplay for dogs, and we've been doing that for about I think 7 or 8 years now. And we've got, if you just Google Sci-Fi London, you'll find some amazing images. We've had some brilliant dogs and owners. About 8 years into running a film festival, I kind of got it to get, every year we're always looking for sponsors. We're always, and still looking for a patron, but we're always looking for money. We're always talking to different venues. We're always partnering with various people. We also do science fact within the festival now, and show documentaries like biopics and things that are of interest, we think, to the audience that might come under our banner of a bit of science fiction and science fact, because the crossover is really close. So we've worked with the Royal Society, we've worked with Scientist magazine and so on. So we do a lot of that. So I'd started going to a lot of film festivals, looking for other films and being just getting into the vibe. Until you go to a film festival, you don't really get film festivals, and how different they can feel, how different they can be. And met a lot of filmmakers, and the question I would always ask is, "Oh, have you made any sci-fi?" Because I'm always looking for sci-fi films. Have you made any? And the answer I got a lot of the time was, "We don't have that kind of budget." I don't have that kind of money to make sci-fi. I'd love to make sci-fi, but I don't have any money to do that. And I kept sort of thinking, well, what money do you need? I mean, you know, if you want to make Star Wars and Avatar and Alien and all the, you know, you need budget. You need millions of dollars because you've got, you know, lots of sets and props, and you know that's one part of science fiction. But if you look again at La Jetée, you know, it's 29 minutes of black and white photography. Where was the, you know, where was the money in that? If you watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is a film that I often point people to as a science fiction film. It's a great love story. It's funny, it's melancholic, it's a beautiful film. And apart from sort of, you know, Michel Gondry, who directed it, apart from his kind of madness, because he always throws in these kind of over the top visuals, the film would actually work just as well without all of that budget stuff. And it's ultimately 3 or 4 actors, a really, really terrible special effect or device for the science fiction. You know, it's a gun and a few dials and some wires and stuff. If you don't know the film, the story is that there's a machine that can edit your memories. That film didn't need a big budget anywhere in that film, because the props you could have made from junk lying around your house. It's where the money went in that film, the filming. But these days, you know, you can shoot brilliantly on an iPhone. You know, spend a couple of $100 on top of an iPhone and buy yourself some lens attachments and a decent, you know, microphone and so on. Most of the software that you would want to edit in is free. You know, and if not, then you can go and do things like, you know, Adobe's Creative Cloud. Just, you know, sign up and use a couple of months of it, and you know, it's really, really easy to do these days. Anyway, so I kept saying to people, have you made a science fiction film? No, we don't have that kind of budget. And I thought, this is a bit mad. And I bumped into this guy in London who ran these little 48-hour filmmaking challenges. And I thought, this is such a great idea. But he was doing it on a kind of, you know, in London, you know, 20 films were made in a weekend. They all had a nice time, but they were all fairly. So I got involved with him and I ran a national 48-hour film challenge. I can't remember how long ago this was now. It's probably 13, 14 years ago. And we got the Film Council, as it was at the time, now it's the BFI, involved. And we ran it in 4 different cities in the UK, and we had 468 films made in a weekend, and some amazing, amazing stuff. And I thought, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to. These people keep telling me they can't make science fiction. Well, we had a couple of sci-fis in these 400 films that were made. I'm going to just start one in the festival. So we started the Sci-Fi London 48-hour film challenge. And for those of you who don't know how it works, and Amal has, again, did it last year, and it was great. It's a really good film. We task you to put a team together, or you can do it on your own. It's all your own kit, all your own equipment. Make a 5-minute science fiction film in a weekend, 48 hours. So on the Saturday morning, because we do it every weekend, on the Saturday morning, we give you the title of the film. We generate a whole lot of unique titles. We give you the title of the film you have to make. We give you a line of dialogue that we have to see said to camera. We give you a prop list of things that we need you to, or an action you have to source and show on screen. And then we give you an optional elevator pitch, you know, a sort of sci-fi theme or a science fact or something that you could work into your story, but they're optional. You've then got 2 days to write it, shoot it, edit, grade, put the sound effects on, subtitles, whatever you've got to do, and deliver it back to us on Monday morning. You can take part anywhere in the world because it's all done online. We just give you the information online. You make your film and you upload it to us, and then we get winners, and then we get prizes. It's great. And as I say to most people who haven't done it yet, what's the worst that can happen is on Monday morning you made a film. Doesn't matter how dreadful it is. On Saturday you started, and on Monday you made a film. So it's a great thing to do with your friends, your colleagues, your kids, as a management exercise. Instead of going paintballing, you know, make a film in a weekend, right? Get everybody involved in that. Then we've had all sorts of people take part. We have companies who do use it as management exercises. We've had production companies who use it as a way of testing out new collaborators. You know, they've got a sound guy who wants to work with them, and they go, "Oh, I tell you what, come do the 48 hour with us, and we'll see how you work under pressure." You know,
For filmmakers, it's great as well because, you know, I remember when I did it, you know, I met so many people and I'd worked with so many people that I'd wanted to work with in the past. And granted, I mean, we shot totally, so it wasn't totally for free. I think we spent about £1,500 on ours, all in all, over the 2 days, you know, feeding people, transport, just bits and bobs we needed, like costumes or whatnot. But it's a great way to meet people. And then, of course, you know, our film, as the other kind of 10 films that were selected, screened at the film festival. So why do you think it's important? We've spoken about, you know, how it's important for audience members to come and explore something new and, you know, get familiar with the sci-fi genre. But why is it important for filmmakers?
There are two reasons that the 48 hour is great. One is that as you say, for filmmakers and someone who's never done science fiction before necessarily, you could just have some fun. It's only a weekend, you know, instead of going to IKEA or make a film, just make something up. And we give you some creative things to at least start off with. And like I said, by Monday morning, you'll be knackered. You'll have had a really good time, hopefully. And then you've got this little 3 to 5 minute production, which is yours. My kids have done it 4 or 5 years in a row, you know, and it's really good fun to, you know, see them get all their buddies together and, you know, they go off and come up with these daft ideas and, you know, seeing the little ones acting on screen. I mean, it's great. So that's, you know, just doing it is a fun thing. The other thing is that competitions like these are really strange. You never know quite what's going to happen and who's watching. So I will give you one of the success stories now. There are several things that have come out of this. So the first year that we did it, our team at our end shortlist the films, and then we picked 10 of the best from that shortlist, and then we give them to a jury which are independent of us, and they pick the first, second, and third place winners. So that year we had a great actor called Emily Booth. She does a lot of horror and a bit of sci-fi stuff. We had the editor of SFX magazine, and we were lucky enough to get John Landis on the jury. I'm sure everybody knows who John Landis is, but American Werewolf is the one that everyone will cite with him. But he also did, you know, brilliant films like Blues Brothers and Trading Places and stuff. Anyway, so a young effects artist who hadn't ever made a film but had been working in visual effects decided he would take part in it's a huge John Landis film. And a little bit of trivia, I don't know if you know, but every John Landis film has got something in it that's to do with the phrase "See you next Wednesday." So he's like his Hitchcock thing of being in every film. There's a "See you next Wednesday" in every one of his productions. So they called themselves the "See you next Wednesdays." I mean, it's just a real, you know, sort of brown nosing to get to John Landis. Anyway, they took part. We had about 70 films made, something like that, 70 teams. We couldn't believe the response. It's the first time we'd done it. 70 teams across the country had taken part. We had probably 6 or 7 really good stories. We had about 20 films that were watchable. We had a couple of really dreadful ones, and we had a couple of ones that were so dreadful they were. Anyway, this young filmmaker got selected, went through to the final, and won it with his first film. Him and 3 friends. The composer was a guy called Daniel Pemberton. If you look him up, you'll see the huge number of things he's worked on. And he had a couple of actors who were friends of his, but what he'd done is he'd gone out and bought himself a special lens for his DV camera. Everyone was shooting on mini DV, and in fact that year we had 70 mini DV tapes delivered on the Monday morning because there was no digital uploads and all that sort of stuff. And his name was Gareth Edwards. He made a 5-minute short for our film competition. Then he made an independent feature called Monsters, which won a ton of awards and very critically acclaimed. And he's a brilliantly talented filmmaker. Off the back of that, he got a phone call to make Godzilla with a $150 million budget. Bryan Cranston, Juliette Binoche, Kurosawa's DP. I mean, unbelievable. And then he got Star Wars Rogue One, which, in my opinion, is still one of the best Star Wars films in the whole franchise. So, and he's now working on another sci-fi movie, which I can't tell you anything about, but watch this space. The first year that we ran it, we had this really amazing little film. It's called Factory Farmed. It's you'll find it. It's on YouTube and Vimeo, and films out there. Any curators or whatever else, if you want to screen the film, then just go ahead. Anything that was made in our 48-hour film challenge, including Vanishing Smoke, which is a Miles film, we co-own the rights for. So
I know that.
that's what you signed up for. So you have our blessing to screen those films anywhere you want them, anywhere, copy them, distribute them, give them to your friends, anything else. Don't sell it, don't make any money from it. And if you do screen them anywhere, then let us know so we can let the filmmakers know, because it's always great to see this stuff go out. So anyway, first year that happened, it went really well. Next year, we had a few more films come in, and but 2 or 3 years down, then Gareth got Monsters. Then people started really paying attention to the challenge. We then just finished on what else has happened. We had the first film ever ever written by an artificial intelligence as part of our film challenge. A guy called Oscar Sharp had been working with a programmer in the States, and they decided to enter and give the 4 elements that we give them, the title and the dialogue and so on, to an AI to write their screenplay. The guys who won 2 years ago, they took their film and entered it into another festival, which had a prize attached to it, and they won a £1 million budget to adapt their short film into a feature, and they're working on that now. They've got a £1 million budget and support with Carnaby Films to turn their film into a feature. I mean, it's just, it's quite amazing what has come out of it. We've had people like Gaumont, for instance, the French TV and film company, approach us to contact teams because of one of the jury. We've had Frank Spotnitz was on the jury 1 year, and so all of 8 years showrunner and writer on X-Files. He developed The Man in the High Castle. I mean, amazing. We then had Thomas Schnauz on as well, who did a little show called Breaking Bad, you may have heard of. It's just, we've had some amazing people on the jury each year looking at these films, both in terms of production, creativity, agents, and all sorts of stuff. So, from my point of view, I would say do it because I want to see your film, because I'm always looking for that new story and just going, oh, wow, that was great. That was so good. Really great twist, great idea, really good concept. On a personal level, we just keep our fingers crossed all the time that we're going to get the next Gareth. We're going to get the next Dreamsy, which was the film from a couple of years ago, that we're going to see another amazing talent, in a film who will suddenly become super famous, because all of it helps then focus people back onto Sci-Fi London, and then hopefully they'll see your first sci-fi feature, because you decided you're going to make one and you were inspired to do that because of the 48 hour, and you bring the film to us, and it's all connected in there. So
and so closing
I hope anyone's still watching this, and if I'm bored with me already.
Oh gosh. Well, let's just close it off by saying, if anyone were to start at a film festival, what kind of advice would you give them? And if there's anything we've missed out on about Sci-Fi London that you would like us to know, how we can you know, watch it, when we can attend it, how we can reach you guys on socials.
Yeah. Okay. So first I'll give you that. So we're sci-filondon.com. Works with or without the hyphens. So sci-filondon.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. It's all Sci-Fi London. That's one word. So facebook.com/Sci-Fi London. Our hashtags for the 48 hours #SFL48HR. From the Sci-Fi London website, you can find links to the film challenge and so on. We're posting films at the moment as well, 3 movies. Some of them are short, some of them are features, things that we love, and selections from the festival while we're in lockdown. We're typically in May. So our festival should have been running from the 13th of May. We're all able to start doing things again. We'll be back as soon as we can to hold our 20th edition. Yeah, and if you're going to start a film festival, just do it. I mean, there isn't, you know, there's no hard and fast rules as to how to do this stuff. I think people like the Independent Cinema Office, if you look up the Independent Cinema Office in the UK, I think they've got a booklet on their site. There might even be one on the BFI site as well on how to run a film festival. But I mean, you know, start small. Don't think you're going to make any money out of it, because it's not a money-making exercise. That's the wrong motivation. It's not a career. You know, we don't make any money. Every year we struggle for money, and everybody who's involved in this is a volunteer. Yeah, I mean, again, from, you know, if you were listening at the beginning and you're still here, well done. But, you know, I was very lucky in the first year that I knew a couple of people, and it was just pure fate, you know, that everything rolled in the right places. But really the work, you know, the lessons were all being learned in year 2, when we started having to go and really look for money, really negotiate with venues, and really find the content. But by then I'd done a festival and been to a few. All right. So the thing is to go to film festivals, pick a genre that you're not necessarily a fan of as well, and go to a festival. You know, even if you just go for a couple of days and you don't buy a badge or a pass, because festivals do things in different ways, just go and hang out. If you want to sell your movie, there are film festivals with markets. If you just want to go as a fan filmmaker and see how audiences react to stuff, hang out in the bars and all that. That's what I would recommend. And of course, watch this space, because I'm sure Amal will tell everybody when we're back up running again, and you'll all be very welcome to come to Sci-Fi London and hang out with us. If you were watching this and you come along and you say, hey, I saw you being really boring and rambling and talking for too long on Amal's YouTube channel, then I'll buy you a beer or a beer of your choice at the bar. All right, we have coffee as well.
Oh,
so yeah, there we go.
Thank you so much for your time, energy, and effort. I think I will be doing a video about navigating film festivals as well, so that'll be something to look out for. And till then, stay safe, and you know, see you at the next Sci-Fi London Film Festival.
And live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.